All right, Magic Makers. Today I'm doing another episode of what I call Dear Kim. And this is from a DM that I got from a woman. And I know that many of you could probably identify with her because this is something I hear on the regular. I see it out in the social media streets. And so here we go. So Hey Kim, I'm reaching out because I am at a loss. I have been in an 8-week boot camp for nearly 8 weeks now, and I am not seeing the results I expected. Actually, scratch that. I've actually gained some weight. I started taking creatine about 2 weeks ago, and I have been strength training twice a week. I'm eating clean. I'm eating about 1,700 calories, which feels like a ton to me, carbs every single meal. And while I have lost at least 1% of my body fat, I've gained some muscle. The scale just won't budge. The scale makes me want to throw in the towel. Well, I've lost some inches, especially in my chest and my midsection. I just want to check in. Have you seen this before? Will the weight eventually come off, or should I just call it quits? So, anyone feel like that? Anyone feel like they're doing all the right things and their body is just like, girl, I ain't giving it to you. I ain't giving up the goods. Well, you are not alone. So first, take a deep breath, right? Breathe in, breathe out, and get your head into the game. So before you call it quits, the thing with ladies over 40, I need us to all like check ourselves before we wreck ourselves and really go back into what our expectations are. Okay. Menopause, yes, absolutely throws us some serious curveballs. Right. But what might be throwing us bigger curveballs is that our expectations. And I see it all the time is that, after 8 weeks, you expect it to be skinny. You wanted it, you wanted to be down five dress sizes and the scale be like what you weighed in high school. But here's the truth. You're putting so much pressure on yourself to look a certain way, chasing a certain number on the scale, chasing a certain body composition. And you're preaching to the choir. I have been there and I know it's a very bitter pill to swallow. You're not broken. Nothing is wrong with the process. There's no secret formula that you're missing out. There's no blueprint that is out there that, wasn't that, that person who was running the boot camp didn't deliver on. The weight would come off much easier if we stop putting so much damn pressure on ourselves, right? Because I see it all the time. Even for me, people set up with my programs and they expect in 4 weeks, like, Kim, why? What's happening? Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And I'm like, okay, nothing's happening on the scale, but let's go back. So you weren't regularly eating meals, but now you are. You weren't regularly sleeping, but now you're starting to get more sleep. You weren't regularly working out, but now you've been able to consistently work out for like 4 to 6 weeks, right? So we start to we put so much emphasis on that scale that we discount all the, I call them the basics, right? All of the basics habits that once I have them laid down in place, they're never going to leave me. Those are the things that are going to keep the results coming and keep that weight off and keep that way at bay. So let's first of all stop putting so much pressure on us and realize that that pressure isn't fixing anything. It's not supporting your body through the changes. If anything, it's making you feel crazier. And I know that with the right education, support, mindset, simple but effective tools, you're going to lose that weight in no time and keep it off for good, right? So, what did I respond to her? So, I kind of basically summed up what I just summed up what I just said to you, but let me just walk you through, let me just like walk you through kind of like step by step of what, she pulled out for me. So first she brought up creatine. Yes, I am a big believer of creatine, especially for women over 40. Now you're taking anywhere from 3 to 5 grams of this creatine. And the creatine, it does for some people. And again, the one thing I want you to take away from any conversation you have with me is that everything 40 plus is very nuanced, because I know that for some of you, you're going to do it and boom, it's going to work like a charm. Others, not so much. Others, we might need to play around with some things, but there's so many shades of gray, and especially for us ladies over 40 losing weight. So step one, creatine. 5 grams of creatine. I'll put a link in the show notes for a brand that I absolutely love and I drink regularly and tastes delicious. About 5 grams. For some people, you may experience water retention in the beginning. However, that will dissipate over a few weeks once your body gets accustomed to having creatine on board. Second part of that is being adequately, oh my God, adequately, you know what I'm trying to say, hydrated, right? So that means you're drinking anywhere from 100 ounces of water or more each day. So that helps your body work through that creatine. So the scale might feel a little rude when you start taking on the creatine, but this is just extra water weight helping you to crush those strength sessions. What creatine does is it takes water and pulls it into your muscles to help you get stronger over the course of time. Second, she's strength training. She's strength training 2 times a week. Honestly, I really prefer women to strength train. If you have the time, like if you can only give me 2 days a week, we'll make it work. But ideally, I would love folks to strength train at least 3 to 4 days a week. And when in those strength training sessions, like we're focusing on gaining muscle. So that muscle is, and I did a whole podcast a couple weeks ago about, what does a workout look like over 40, based on a podcast I listened to with Dr. Stacy Sims. And it's really focusing in on heavy lifts, right? So that we got squats, we got deadlifts, we got carries, we have rows, we have pressing exercises, so that the last few reps feel challenging but doable, right? That's what we're looking for when it comes to a strength training session, and that it's progressive and it's periodized, so that over the course of, a year, you have a session where you're focusing in on getting stronger, a session where you're focusing in on just building muscle, a session that you're working on building more power. So there is a method to the madness, so that we're just not randomly picking some type of workout off of YouTube and doing it and just hoping for the best. And if that's something that sounds interesting for you, I do offer monthly workouts. So I'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. So when you might see an increase in, like, as she said, she mentioned she put on about 1% more muscle, which is fabulous, because you may have heard me say this, we are losing anywhere from 3 to 5% of our muscle for every decade after 35. So this is absolutely fabulous that she was able to put on 1% more muscle. So sometimes that muscle, when you step on the scale, that might be what caused the scale to go up. Now, I always tell my ladies, and I'm telling you, I know that you want both, right? You're like, I want my cake and eat it too. I want both. I want scale weight and I want body composition change. For over 40, honestly, I would rather you chase body composition change, because I know that you are looking at yourself in the mirror. Maybe you're looking at yourself naked, getting out of the shower, and you're just like, bloody hell. And I know that if you were down 2 dress sizes, maybe the scale wouldn't matter as much, right? So when I work with my clients, I ask them to take a picture. No, you do not have to share it with me. I just want you to take this picture, because I know that visually will look different than the scale. And if I'm only looking at the scale and I haven't taken a picture and I haven't taken measurements, when that scale kicks me in the shins, and it always will kick you in the shin, I can look at the picture, and I ask my ladies to take a picture at least every other week, if not once a month. And the same thing with the measurements, take them at least once a month. And this way we'll be able to kind of start to put some data behind things, versus just the scale didn't move, and not knowing, oh my God, but the scale didn't move, but I lost 5 inches off my hips. The scale didn't move, but I as I look, I notice that, my face doesn't look as puffy, right? Because like when we see ourselves every single day, we just see the same shit in the mirror. But when I take a picture, a snapshot in time, it's really easy for me to go back and be like, whoa, wow, okay, all right. That scale is being that fickle bitch that she talks about. Okay. So carbs and calories for, I don't know who brought this out into the, world. And I just want to find them and shake them by the shoulders. So she's eating about 1,700 calories. And so one of the things that I'm not mad at that number, right? For a lot of women, we think less is more, right? Less calories, eat less, move more. And we were indoctrinated in that. We can repeat it verbatim. Like, I see it all the time. Take 500 calories off of what you're eating, and that's going to be your magic number. There's no magic number. So this is more what is nuance, right? So she mentioned that she lost some inches off her chest and her midsection. That is not a small win. That is a big win. So let's just like, you know, hands up, take a lap around the infield, right? That is body transformation. And so before, I know that you think the scale is giving you that dirty look. The scale is that, that fickle itch, and it doesn't tell the whole story. It barely scratches the surface, right? The thing about the scale is that you could have not pooped, overhydration, maybe you had a really heavy carb meal, maybe you're about to get your period, maybe it's a fuller moon, so the earth is closer, the moon is closer to the earth. So many random things affect that scale. So focus in on the wins, right? We're losing inches and we're putting on muscle. Awesome. Let's find a pair of pants that you want to fit in, that you've worn in the last 5 years. Let's really, like I said, take those pictures, take those inches. Now, going back to the calories, carbs aren't there to sabotage our efforts. Actually, we need carbs. Carbs help us think. When I was a fitness competitor, the last week of show was the most intense of the diet, right? So if I was, say, competing on a Saturday, starting that previous Sunday, that was my week of show. And during that week of show, depending on how I was coming into show, if I was lean enough, it was a smooth sail. If I wasn't lean enough, all the carbs went, and I was pretty much living a keto existence for a week. And that sucked, because a lot of times it was white fish and green vegetables. And let me tell you, and I didn't really have a lot of options when it came to spices. So it was pretty much Mrs. Dash, no real oil, just a tablespoon for the day. And so it was literally bland fish with like as many different kind of fucking mustards and soy sauce that I could tolerate. So that was a flashback you just witnessed. So when it comes to that, she said she was eating 1,700 calories, right? So, and she was having carbs with every meal. You need carbs to think. When I was during that week of show and I didn't have carbs, I literally felt like I was on tape delay. You would ask me something, the most basic question, like, "Hey, Kim, what's your name?" And I'd be like, ooh, oh, hi, I'm Kim, right? It was just, I could not think. And that's what you need carbs to think. I was also very tired, and carbs are what gives you energy. Carbs fill the tank for you. So instead of thinking that carbs are the evil villain and that once you lose carbs, you're going to lose weight. Yeah. For every gram of carb, there's 2 grams of water attached to it, right? So you're going to see that scale like initially go down. But the moment I put carbs back on board, whoosh, I'm back up. So what I want you to start to think about here is that when I come to looking at calories, I want you to, the thing that, when you work with a coach, right? So many people think like, I'm going to get my macros and I'm good, and I don't have to do a damn thing, like set it and forget it, right? Well, you're not a rotisserie chicken. We don't have to set it and forget it. So great. She was eating 1700 calories. And I'm like, okay. And she was putting on weight. So I'm like, all right, the first place I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at her food log. And I'm going to say, how much protein was she eating? One. I'm going to ask her in her meals, was she hungry? How was her energy? How was her cravings? Because that tells me what the balance of her food looked like. And if she's hungry, the first place I'm going to go is I'm going to add more protein. If she wasn't hitting at least 20 to 30 grams of carbs with every single meal, I'm going to ask her to up her protein. If her carbs exceeded like 200 to 300 grams a day, I was going to ask to see if we can pull those back just a touch, right? So it's just like little things that we would do to see if we could finagle any change in her body. But it's not this wholesale come in and be like, no carbs. It's like, okay, what kind of carbs are you eating? What's your energy level look like? Are you sleeping? Because I don't want to disrupt something else just to get that freaking scale to budge, right? So that's the nuance when it comes to calories. And then, you know, I would, if she like, we came back and she was feeling good, she had good energy, she, you know, was able to keep her weight stabilized, then we could talk about where we need to do we need to go a little lower with her calories, right? And I want you to say it as I'm talking calories and carbs and all this other stuff. This is not for you. This is her, right? We are talking about this person who wrote into me. So if you want to apply this specifically to you, let's have a personalized conversation, because I'm just giving more generic feedback. Like, this is the feedback I would give to her because she's given me her specific scenario. So now that she's gotten these 8 weeks underneath her belt, here is where now what can you do to build consistency? Because this is the secret sauce, right? It's not, and here's the thing. Consistency is not sexy, right? No, like consistency is not something like you will ever see like in a, those like workouts, those workout infomercials. They're like, oh, come and do the supersonic workout with me because it'll make you consistent. It's not sexy. No one wants to buy consistency, but I know that consistency is what is going to give you results, right? It's the Fit Girl magic formula, right? Great habits lead to routines that lead to consistency that leads to results. So now that she's got this, and I asked her, is she willing to stick with it? Right? Because that's a sign that your body is, her losing inches, her losing body fat, it's a sign that her body is changing and adapting. So it's liking what she's doing, but can she keep it up? And can we add on just that one more day of strength training and see how that goes? Because so it's showing me that you're on the right path. So let's not give up before the magic unfolds. Like 8 weeks is a blip in time. I know that I'm about to say something that's going to like have some of you guys pass out. So if you're driving, pull over. I like to work with people for about 20 weeks. And this is why. I like to work with you for 20 weeks because most of the women who come to me have this mindset. And you've been doing the same shit for as long as you can remember. All right. A recent client, she got a diet from a diet guru back in the early 2000s. So here we are, 2024. She's been following that same diet for 20 years. And then finally she's like, Kim, it's the belly fat's just staying there. It's not working. And I was like, well, how long have you been eating like this? Literally 20 years. She has not changed one iota of her diet in 20 years. So for those of you guys who know me, I'm the big believer of variety. I'm also the big believer in periodizing your diet from time to time. You gotta mix, you have to challenge your metabolism from time to time. So for her, she's eating in that 1700 calorie range, right? Let's get her weight stable, right? Let's see if her weight stabilizes for at least 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, I'd be like, okay, let's pull away some small things out of your nutrition for another 6 to 12 weeks. See how that goes. And then let's add things back in your diet for another 6 to 12 weeks so that we have diet breaks diets, and then we bump up our calories a little bit so that we're always keeping our body in a guessing pattern, right? The trick here is that our body loves patterns, right? So if we stay consistent with our nutrition and not the same, but what I mean consistent means that I'm not having these big swings where like I'm really like restricting, white knuckling my food, and then if it ain't nailed down, it's going in my mouth, right? We want to have those, we want to make sure that we're finding that like that pattern where we're able to open up our nutrition, close it down, open it up, close it down. And going back to the scale, giving yourself wiggle room on that scale so that with that wiggle room, it's not about the best way I can describe it, we are not bankers, right? We are not bankers. And so a lot of people will be like, I want to weigh 160 pounds, and that you will, and meaning to yourself in your mind, you're never going to gain a pound over 160. If I go 161, 162, I'm going to hit the freak out button. No, I would rather you give yourself plus or minus 5 pounds. Because like I said, on that scale, there's so many things that could be going on, because if, there are those people who hop on the scale every day, God love you. But if it fucks with you, get off that scale. They'll hop on the scale on Monday and be 160. Hop on the scale on Tuesday, be 161. Hop on the scale on Wednesday, be 162. Hop on the scale on Thursday, be back down to 160. But on Wednesday, that's when they freak out. They're like, oh my God, I'm up 2 pounds. The sky is falling. I gotta run. I gotta go. I gotta pull everything. And so I want you to say, give yourself plus or minus 3 to 5 pounds. And if that 3 to 5 pounds sticks around for longer than a couple weeks, then we can go back and look at our nutrition and be like, have I been getting a little loose? One of my clients, she was like, oh, Kim, she's like, I just feel like I just put on like some extra weight and I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, okay, let's track our food. And we tracked our food, and like it brought awareness that, okay, I've been eating out a lot more, which isn't bad. But sometimes when we eat out, we don't really pay attention to our portion, right? We sometimes, because we're at a certain place, we find ourselves eating something that, instead of having the whole thing, I really need to split it in half. And so those are the kind of nuanced things that as you are working through a, weight loss program, you're going to have to reassess, right? And not throw in the towel and not like, go into this big all or nothing thing. And so where I left it with her is that I don't want her to give up, right? I want her to reassess. And reassessment should happen every 4 to 6 weeks, because our bodies are constantly going through different iterations. One, two, life, right? So, I don't like to date podcasts, but I'm going to date this one. We're entering, the last few months of the year. And so for the last few months of the year, I know that, schedules can get compressed, right? So it's like, I know when I was in corporate, this was my busiest time of the year. Like from pretty much from the middle of September through Thanksgiving, I was on the road and my time was not myself. And so for me to try to diet during that, girl, that was not happening. All right. And so maybe that's the same thing for you, where I talk about this, I talk about another client all the time. She's a tax attorney. So basically she's not a tax attorney, she's an accountant. From pretty much the end of January through the end of April, her time's not her own. So she has to reevaluate. So the same thing comes here to be consistent. We every like 4 to 6 weeks, look at what's going on for you. What does the next 90 days bring for you? And so that way we can set a plan. And I'll do a whole new podcast on how do you periodize, one, your nutrition, but two, how do you periodize your workouts? Because it's okay for things to adjust, right? Our lives don't, for the most part, our lives don't stay the same. We have, like I said, we have really busy seasons, and then we have seasons where we're like, girl, I can't even think about anything beyond whatever is the thing that's taking up the bulk of your time. So here's where, when we reassess, it's like, what do we have for time? What's actually working? What's not working, right? What feels realistic for us right now? Am I excited about what I'm doing? Is it sustainable for me? And can I easily put it into the plan, into my life, into my week plan, my day plan? And if I can't, then we got to do some tweaks here. And if that's a challenge for you, let's have a conversation with me. Let's have a conversation with me. Have a conversation with me. Yes, I speak English. Have a conversation with me because maybe your macros need adjustment, or maybe we need to shake up your workout routine. Like, from time to time, we all need a recalibration, right? Not a retreat, just a recalibration, because that is not, retreating and starting all over again. Like, come on, how many times can you do that before you're like, I'm waiting for my 600-pound life to come find me. Ladies, if this sounds like your story too, don't stress. Like, this process is all about patience and persistence and keeping your eye on the on real progress. How do you feel? How do your clothes fit? Do I have great energy? Am I sleeping better? Do I start to feel like myself? One of the best compliments that I could get from coaching with me is that when women tell me they're starting to feel like themselves, like the brain fog is starting to lift, like I'm starting to have the energy, I'm able to play with my kids or play with my animal. I want that. So to my girls who feel like you're hitting the wall, keep going. You are not failing. You are transforming. Your body is just adjusting to all the goodness that you're throwing at it, and the results are on their way. So trust me, the magic happens when you push past these frustrations and just stay the course. Now, ladies, that's it for this episode, but I am hosting a 5-day mini course that's all about how do you lose the belly fat, and it's going to address a lot of the things that was addressed here when in this DM that was sent to me. And it's really, over the 5 days, just breaking down like, what is belly fat? What are the mistakes that may be causing it? And most of all, how can I get rid of it? All right, magic makers, do me a favor. If this is landing with you and you have some other thing that's frustrating you, do me a favor, hit me up. You can find me in my Facebook group, Fit Girl Magic. You can find me on the socials, Kim Barnes Jefferson on Facebook and Kim Jefferson Coach on the gram. All right, magic makers, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you next week.